everyone, and welcome once again to Caleb Blake's Books. Today I have a book ranking for you. First time I've done one of these in a little while. Today I'm going to be ranking the 5 books currently released in Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight archive series. This is a video I've actually been planning to do since I read Wind and Truth at the beginning of this year, and I just kept forgetting to make it. And so I remembered it just earlier today as of the time I'm recording this, and I was like, man, I should really get that done because I knew my ranking. I needed some time to kind of let Wind and Truth kind of solidify my opinion on it, really. Even though it's pretty similar to when I first read it, I really needed to just kind of have some time with it. And also just to figure out other parts of my ranking, because there's a couple of these books that I actually had a little bit of a difficult time figuring out where they would go. But I think right now I'm pretty comfortable with how I would rank these books. So before I get into actually discussing the ranking, first of all, I will be allowing myself to talk spoilers in this video. So do be aware of that. If you have not read all 5 of these books yet, I would recommend probably not watching this video. I don't know how extensively I'll be talking about spoilers. I don't think I'll be going super in depth with spoilers, but just in case, I would recommend if you have not read all 5 of these books, probably don't watch this video. I do have that I posted a while ago. I do have a full Cosmere ranking minus Wind and Truth and a couple other books, I think. So if you're interested in checking that out, then go do that. And that is fully spoiler-free. So you can go check that out if you're interested in a spoiler-free ranking of the Cosmere books. But this one I will be allowing myself to talk spoilers. Also, I love all 5 of these books. I would give, like, I think my least favorite book in the Stormlight archive, I'd still give like a 9 out of 10. So like, I love all of these. This is my favorite series. Sanderson's my favorite author, I think. And Stormlight I would consider to probably be my favorite series. So even, you know, my least favorite book that I'll be talking about in this video, I still really love. And so don't take me having, you know, maybe your favorite book in one of my bottom spots as me saying it's not good, because it absolutely is, but something's got to go at the bottom. Other than that, I don't really think there's anything else I have to talk about in terms of preamble, so we'll get right started. So there are 5 books to rank. So starting with my least favorite Stormlight book at number 5, I have book 4, Rhythm of War. This one has, my number 4 and number 5 spots have been really kind of swapping around a lot in general since I read both books that occupy those spots. So it's been kind of hard for me to really figure out which one goes where, but I do think Rhythm of War, if I had to pick a least favorite right at this moment, I would say it's Rhythm of War. Now, there are things about this book that I absolutely love. Like I said, I even this book I think is still amazing. I still loved it when I read it. So I do like a lot about this book. I think the ending of this book, especially, the Sanderlanche, the climax of this book, is arguably my favorite in the series. I think I might prefer one of the other ones, but it's hard to say. Like, they're pretty equal for me. So that one definitely brings this one up a lot for me, where you have just, I feel like this has just a super epic, awesome ending, and you have some absolutely, like, just very emotional moments to this one, and I said I would allow spoilers, so I'm going to spoil a big part of the ending of this book. But the moment where Teft dies towards the end of this book is one of the most emotionally impactful moments of the series for me. And other parts of this, like, I loved the idea of Uruthiro kind of being taken over, kind of being under siege, whatever you want to call it. And you know, all the stuff going on there was really interesting. The science stuff was maybe a little heavy-handed, I think. Sanderson really diving into the magic system. I enjoy Sanderson's magic systems, but despite the fact he's my favorite author, it's not my favorite thing about his books. It seems like a lot of other fans really dig into the magic system stuff. That's not so much my thing. I really enjoy more the general world building and the characters and things like that, not so much the real nitty-gritty of the magic, but it was still interesting to learn about. But I think that is the thing, that was one thing that does bring this one down for me, was just that was a little much. It's not something I minded too much because it was still interesting, but a lot of it really did go over my head. But the other thing that really brought this one down for me was the flashbacks with Venli. Now, these are not bad flashbacks by any means, but they are easily my least favorite in the series. I didn't really care too much about them except towards the end of the book. Once you get to some of the last handful of flashback scenes, I did really enjoy those, but a lot of them just didn't quite work for me a huge amount. And I do think this book, out of all of the Stormlight books, to me felt the most kind of dragged out a little bit. And I know, like, some people say the same thing for, you know, a book like Wind and Truth, for example, but to me, this one was the one that felt the most dragged out. Even though I still thoroughly enjoyed it, I would read just a, you know, I don't mind a Stormlight book being long and dragged out because I enjoy just spending time with these characters and in this world, but it did feel the most, like, you know, stretched out to me, I guess. Yeah, I still really enjoy this book though, but out of the 5 books that are currently out in the first arc of Stormlight, it probably is my least favorite. So then we have my number 4 spot, and like I said, in the past, and even still probably in the present as well, my number 4 and number 5 kind of swap places a lot. I've had kind of a hard time nailing down what my real opinion on it is, but I do think I might slightly put this one over Rhythm of War, just a little bit at least, and it is probably my most unpopular opinion on the Stormlight series, and one of my most unpopular Sanderson opinions in general. That is Words of Radiance. Now, this is an absolute fan favorite Cosmere book, and I can see why. Like I said, I love all of these books, so I can see why people love this one. To me, this is personally the least memorable Stormlight book for me. This is the one where I think back on it and I remember enjoying it a whole lot, but I don't remember a whole lot of specifics. There's not a whole lot of moments in it that really stick in my brain as being really, really impactful moments. There are some. For example, towards the beginning of the book when you have the fake out death with Yasna, even though I'm typically not much of a fan of fake out deaths in general, I did really like how effective that was. That, like, I remember how I felt reading that moment, and I was just like flabbergasted. I was like, how in the world did this just happen? But so that was very effective. You also had, you know, obviously the iconic arena scene with Kaladin, with the, you know, the honor is dead scene. You know, that's a good scene. There's a lot of good stuff in this book in general. I like how this book kind of brings the characters together a bit more. You get to see, you know, like Kaladin and Shallan and Adolin and all of them kind of interacting a bit more. You know, towards the end of Way of Kings, all of these characters kind of started to converge, and you really get to see them all together more in this book, which I really like. And you also have, like, Kaladin, especially. You know, Kaladin's my favorite character in the series, so first book was kind of his book, really, with the flashbacks and everything. This one you get to really see him kind of learning more and developing more and things like that. And then you also have Shallan's flashbacks, which I enjoyed. Not my favorite flashbacks in the series, but I still enjoyed them quite a bit. But yeah, the main thing that brings this one down for me is just I don't find it as memorable. Like, I'm struggling to really think of specific things to talk about in this book, because even though I loved it all the way through, it doesn't have as many, like, big wow moments as the other books do that really stick in my memory. So that is the main reason this one falls a little bit lower for me, but it's still a fantastic book, and I can see why many people would place it as their favorite Sanderson book or their favorite Stormlight book. It just isn't that way for me. So then at number 3, we have Wind and Truth, the newest book in the Stormlight Archive, book 5. There's a lot of things that I really enjoyed about this book, and I understand where a lot of the criticisms are coming from, and I even agree with several of them myself, but I did still really love this book all the way through. I really like how different it is for a Stormlight book, personally, and there are certain elements of difference that I don't quite love, like the prose, for example, which, as the book went along, bothered me less once I got used to it, but it is still kind of an issue for me. That is one thing that was different from the other books that I didn't quite love. But other ways it's different, like the different structure, having it be 10 days, it is a little weird, but I think it works really well for breaking up the story into that 10-day structure. And on top of that, like, had some interesting, like, just the reading experience of it was kind of interesting. Like, you would have, for example, when, you know, Dalinar and Navani and all of them go into the spiritual realm, you don't see them for a couple days, and so you're thinking, like, what in the world's going on there? I really liked that about it. I really liked how just different it feels in general. Like something about the atmosphere of this book feels very different from the other ones to me. And that's something that Sanderson also has talked about, in certain places, how he intentionally tried to make the book feel different. And I do think that worked mostly. Obviously did not work for some people. I think that was one of those things that really kind of threw some people off. For me, I thought it really worked. It really made it feel very climactic. It made it feel, in some ways, much darker and much more like, this is like the moment where all hope could be lost kind of thing. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed getting so many revelations about the series. And obviously there are more questions that haven't been answered and more questions posed in this book that obviously haven't been answered. But there are so many things, like learning about the history of Roshar in this book, and like the Stormfather flashbacks and things. Getting perspectives from the Stormfather himself was super cool. I can remember, again, kind of similar to the thing with Words of Radiance, I can remember my reaction when I think it was day 8 or day 9 or something, and I started the chapter when it was like, this is the Stormfather's perspective, and I was like, holy crap, that's so cool. I loved that. I loved the ending of this book as well. It feels a little bit, to me, out of nowhere to have like, is it Gavalor? Or Gavinar, I can't remember his name. It's not coming to me. The nephew of Dalinar or whatever, being, the champion of Odium. I liked that. It felt a little weird, but I did like it. I thought it was kind of an interesting twist on things. And it to me really kind of made me very interested in seeing where the series goes from here, because this book ends in such a way where it's like, there is still hope for the future, but it just has an ending that is like, how in the world are things going to be moving forward from this point? It makes me very excited for the future of the series, because I think the way this book ends is just really interesting. But other things that I enjoyed the Seth flashbacks. Some of my favorite flashbacks in the series. I really enjoyed Seth in general in this book, and his relationship with Kaladin, which again, some people have issues with that, Kaladin kind of acting as his therapist, which was a little weird at times, but it didn't really bother me. And I did enjoy Kaladin in this book, and kind of his ending in this book of ascending to become like a herald and all that stuff was really cool. So I did generally enjoy this book a lot, but it's not quite my favorite Stormlight book, but I also didn't dislike it as much as a lot of other people did. I still really loved it. So then we have my number 2 favorite book in the series, which is the first book in the series, The Way of Kings. This is one of the most emotionally impactful books I've ever read. This is one of those where I can remember many points in this book that really hit me. I can remember, the moment when Kaladin decides that he is going to help his bridge crew and be like, no, we're going to survive this. We're going to really kind of, work together and all that stuff. That moment nearly brought me to tears. The ending of this book's amazing. I love the journeys of all the characters in this book, especially I would say the big 3 characters being Kaladin, Shallan, and Dalinar. I loved in this book seeing Kaladin kind of being the leader of Bridge 4 and kind of leading the bridge crew, becoming like this figure who is struggling but is kind of pushing through his struggles and things like that, and trying to lead people and trying to help people is something that I really enjoyed. Seeing Shallan going to study with Yasna and everything going on with her was really cool too. A lot of interesting mysteries going on with her plotline. And then you have Dalinar, who is like having these visions of the past and this like interaction with this divine figure and all this stuff was really, really cool. I loved that stuff in this book as well. The beginning of this book, the prologue to this book with Zeth was awesome, like a fantastic beginning to the book. All that stuff, like there's just so many things about this book that really did work for me very well. And it was just an amazing first book in the series, amazing way to start it. Had me hooked right from the beginning. Very early in this book, I was already loving it. And by the end of it, I was all in on this series. And I just loved this book a lot. And like I said, one of the most emotionally impactful reads that I've ever had in my life. I really loved it a lot. Fantastic start to the series. And, this one also, alongside Words of Radiance, seems to be a bit of a fan favorite. And again, I can see why. It's a fantastic book. but it is not my favorite book in the Stormlight archive, because my number one goes to book 3, which is Oathbringer. This one kind of has a bunch of the qualities that I've mentioned about some of the other books. It has, I think, like I said with Rhythm of War and Oathbringer kind of fight it out for having my favorite climax in a Stormlight book. Like the Sanderson, the climax of this book is very long. It's like 2 or 3 times longer than it normally is in these books. But I loved it all the way through. It's so epic and amazing. So many great character moments in the climax of this book with Teft, with Kaladin, with Dalinar. Just so many great character moments in the climax of this book. And on top of that, you had the flashbacks with Dalinar, which I think are my favorite flashbacks in the series. I'd probably say these are my favorite flashbacks. I'd say Zess might be second or something like that. But these are definitely my favorite flashbacks in the entire series. Really I already loved Dalinar based on the first 2 books. But the flashbacks in this book made him, Kaladin is still my favorite character in the series, but the flashbacks in this book made me consider having Dalinar be my favorite character in the series, because I loved the flashbacks in this book, and just exploring the tragedy of his past and the stuff with the Blackthorn and all this stuff and his wife and all these things was super well done, super impactful, really, really great. Really loved it a lot. This book I do think is a bit slower paced than the other Stormlight books. I would say this one, alongside Rhythm of War, are probably, I would say, the slowest paced Stormlight books, the slowest feeling ones. But to me, that still really worked with this book. It really let the world building really kind of come more to the forefront. It really let the characters come more to the forefront, really gave you a lot of time to just soak in the world and the characters and their relationships and spend time with them and all that stuff, which I really appreciated. And yeah, I just really loved this book a whole lot, and I enjoyed all the rest of it too, but the ending especially is what really, really brings it up for me. But all of the entirety of this book I really loved, and there was a lot of good stuff all throughout it. There was a lot of great moments with Kaladin, Adolin, and Shallan together that I really loved. I loved the dynamic between the 3 of them in this book especially, yeah, I just loved this book a lot. I thought it was amazing. It is probably my favorite Sanderson book, probably my favorite Cosmere book, and I would say is arguably my favorite book in general, because Stormlight's my favorite series, Sanderson's my favorite author, so it only kind of makes sense for my favorite book and my favorite series by my favorite author to be my favorite book. I don't know if it actually is. It's kind of hard for me to quantify something like that, but if I were to pick my default answer, it would probably be Oathbringer. So I really love this book a lot. So yeah. That is pretty much it for this ranking. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it. If you agree with any of my picks, if you disagree with me, if your ranking is completely different from mine, or if it happens to potentially be the exact same, whatever it may be, let me know down in the comments below what your favorite book in the series is, what your least favorite is, whatever your thoughts may be, let me know down in the comments, and all that kind of thing. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.